Get out, I'm moving in with my fiancé. Nora declared triumphantly out of the blue, leaving me momentarily speechless with my mouth agape. What? I wondered how to respond, while Tom stood beside me, equally stunned. We'll take care of the loan, it's $1,200 a month. Ken added, his voice tinged with laughter, which thankfully kick-started my rational thinking. I said, then I'll leave, thinking the loan is $12,000. I replied, struggling to suppress my laughter, without voicing my inner thoughts. Watching Nora and Ken laughing and saying serves you right, I calmly analyzed the two in my mind. Poor things, they're done for. I thought as the two high-fived, while only Tom grew pale. Foreseeing the future but unable to change it. I gently patted Tom's back, consoling him. What else could be done? One must take responsibility for their words. My name is Yvonne, and I'm 59 years old. Working as a freelance consultant. I also earn income as an affiliate marketer, making no less than $20,000 a month. Of course, reaching this point wasn't easy, it took many trials and errors. My journey to freelancing and affiliate marketing began with my father's care. Since my parents' divorce when I was 7, my dad raised me alone. Wanting to repay him, I sought a job I could do from home to be near him, as he couldn't even go to the bathroom by himself. I chose freelancing for its flexible hours. While I was out, a helper would come over, and I'd take my dad to the hospital, pushing his wheelchair. I cherished our casual conversations and the scenery we shared on those trips. My dad passed away 8 years ago, but I continued my consulting and affiliate marketing work. I met my 60-year-old husband, Tom, through my consulting. Tom, who runs a small company, was originally my client. Tom, who worked harder than anyone else for the sake of his company and employees, found that despite his efforts, the business was deteriorating. Competent employees left, and despite his hard work, performance didn't improve. Lost and fearing for his employees' futures, he sought my help. While there were various minor reasons, one major cause was Tom's excessive kindness. Not all employees were inspired to work harder by seeing Tom, who worked more than anyone else. Some employees thought they could take it easy, and there were even those who mocked the hard-working president. Employees introduced by acquaintances or business partners, despite frequently slacking off or being absent without notice, were not dismissed. Instead, there were repeated attempts at discussion under the belief that talking it over would lead to improvement. Over time, this situation created a vicious cycle where the hard-working employees developed resentment, leading to the departure of competent personnel. Tom would also wait endlessly for payments from struggling partners, ironically leading to salary issues for his employees. While it might be appreciated by business partners, it's counterproductive if it leads to a situation where the company cannot pay its employees' salaries. The employees also have families to support. It seemed inevitable that employees, feeling uncertain about the company's future, would start leaving the job. I had to make Tom understand that his employees had families too, and their futures depended on his decisions. He needed to make the right choices as a business owner. From then on, Tom became stricter with employees who slacked off or missed work without notice, and set clear deadlines for delinquent clients, insisting on payment without further delay. This was all to protect his precious employees and their families. If it meant safeguarding them, Tom wouldn't hesitate to spend money on a lawyer. Tom might have seemed a bit unreliable as a president, but I admired his humanity. We started going out for meals, where I learned his wife had passed away over a decade ago due to illness. And naturally, our conversations turned to how my father raised me alone. These outings gradually became our healing time. After dating for about 2 years, Tom proposed to me 6 years ago. I met his daughter, Nora, after the proposal. She was 21 and in college at the time. She was enjoying her carefree student life. "Are you after Dad's money or what?" That was Nora's response when Tom introduced me. "Excuse me?" I replied, perplexed by her suspicious look and obvious distaste. Maybe Nora felt like I was taking her father away. Or perhaps there had been women around Tom before who seemed to be after his money. What nonsense! Tom started to scold her, but Nora turned away, refusing to listen. I let out a small sigh and explained I wasn't after his money. If you don't believe me, ask your dad to write a will. Everything goes to the daughter. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that. I never expected her to call me Mom. Or to replace her late mother. But this was a problem beyond that. Reluctantly, Nora consented to our marriage. I later found out Tom was incredibly indulgent with Nora. He'd give her money whenever she asked. And buy her whatever she wants. Aren't you spoiling her a bit too much? I'd say, and Tom would scratch his head, saying, sorry. I guess. After her mom passed, I felt she was lonely. And when the company was in trouble, she had to endure financial hardships too. I understood his feelings, but this was creating a daughter reliant on her father. With my own experience in mind, I wondered if I should intervene. But then I thought, Nora's habit of quitting jobs quickly probably stemmed from knowing she could always rely on her dad. Anyway, think about what's really best for your daughter. At this rate, she'll just keep quitting jobs after college. Tom pondered my words. Perhaps realizing this couldn't continue. So he made a proposal to Nora. He'd only give her an allowance until she graduated college, then no more gifts except for birthdays and Christmas. The money she earned from working could be all hers. Huh. Nora initially looked dissatisfied, but after talking with friends, she realized it was a fair deal. Some people, once they start working, might even live on their own. There are probably people who contribute financially to their households as well. Living at home, Nora could spend all the money she earned any way she liked. Got it. So, it's business as usual until I graduate from college, right? She perked up and took full advantage of Tom's generosity for the next year and a half. Now, Nora is 27. As promised, she's been using her salary for herself, not contributing to the household. She doesn't quit jobs like she did in college, probably because she knows she'd lose her spending money. However, her selfish nature hasn't changed, and she never warmed up to me. She's convinced I married Tom for financial ease. This was 3 years ago when Nora was 24. When Tom told her about my new house, she frowned skeptically. What, some cheap place in the sticks? Commutable? She laughed dismissively. Or is it even fit for living? I never told Nora about my monthly income of over $20,000. Luckily, she's indifferent to me and, although she knows I work from home, never asked about my earnings. It's hardly the sticks, I replied. It might even make commuting easier. I've always dreamed of a spacious new house. When I showed her the 7-bedroom house plan and exterior photo, close to the station, even Nora exclaimed, "Wow, that's amazing." Dad really splurged, huh? No, I didn't buy it. But he must have chipped in, right? She looked at me with disbelief, as if such a nice, large house was beyond my means. I could only sigh at her constant attitude. I think it was right after we moved in. Returning from a consulting job, I stopped by a cafe I happened to see. While reading a paperback and sipping coffee, I heard a commotion. I looked up, recognizing the familiar voice, and saw Nora at a nearby table. She was unaware of me behind her. On a date, perhaps? A young man about her age sat opposite her. You're working and can't even take me out to dinner? What kind of boyfriend are you? She berated him loudly, expecting him to pay for dinner as a gift. The other customers glanced over, wondering what was happening. The young man, unlike Nora, seemed calm. After he said something, Nora splashed water on him and stormed out of the cafe. Hey! I quickly got up and offered the young man a handkerchief. He looked back, surprised, as I apologized. I'm so sorry for Nora's rude behavior. When I introduced myself as Nora's mother, the young man exclaimed, "Oh," and then scratched his wet head, saying, "Sorry you had to see that embarrassing moment." He is John, a year older than Nora at 25. He met her at a mixer. He was caring for his parents. That's quite young to be taking on such responsibility. Yeah, I was a late child for my parents. It must be tough caring for both parents, I said, then quickly apologized for my possibly intrusive comment. I'm sorry. I took care of my father too, so I understand some of the difficulties. John assured me it was okay, admitting that he sometimes felt overwhelmed, wishing he could hang out more like his friends. I actually do find it tough sometimes. I often wish I could hang out and have fun like the others around me. The mixer that John attended was apparently organized by his friends as a way to cheer him up and provide a distraction. He'd gone to the mixer for a break, never intending to date anyone, but Nora pursued him relentlessly. Nora is fun to be with, but I don't have much money. He cares for his parents and accompanies them to the hospital during the day, and works night shifts 4 days a week. Money was tight, he said. I see. Today, I couldn't pay the water bill and asked the company if they could wait until payday. Nora overheard and dumped me, saying she can't be with a poor man. I felt tears well up as John laughed it off. I'm truly sorry for her rudeness. She just didn't understand the hardships of caring for parents. I was feeling a mix of regret and anger. Remembering my own experience with my father's care, I offered to help John by introducing him to a job he could do from home. 3 years later, Nora brought home a young man she wanted to marry. Personally, I thought John, with his kind nature, would have been a better match, but Nora's fiancé, Ken, wasn't bad-looking either. Introduced through a dating app. Ken, who works in the administrative department of a company, was asked by Tom if he enjoys his job. However, Ken's response was primarily complaints about his boss, colleagues, and the company itself. Ken just got unlucky with his company. Nora chimed in, and Ken laughed, yeah, right? If things get tough, you can always work at Dad's company. That'd be great, thanks. They said, already taking it for granted. Tom and I could only exchange wry smiles. We were sensing that Ken would likely be dissatisfied anywhere he worked. It's likely that some form of dissatisfaction or complaint would emerge. So, that's why. Nora suddenly clapped her hands and grinned at me. I'm moving in with my fiancé, so you need to move out. Her triumphant declaration left me speechless for a moment. What? I wondered how to respond, while Tom stood beside me, equally stunned. We'll take care of the loan, it's $1,200 a month. Ken's laughter made my thoughts clear again. Oh, right, that time. I remember, a few months ago. Nora saw the loan statement I'd left on the table while organizing my drawers. Is that what the loan on this house is? I felt a bit of discomfort hearing this. It seemed odd. Little did I know she'd misread the amount. I said, then I'll leave, thinking the loan is $120,000. I replied, holding back laughter, and began using my phone. But just so you know, even if we change the ownership, I doubt you can restructure the loan. If Nora and Ken can't pay, the house will have to be sold, and the remainder paid in full. Is that okay? Sure, no problem. Nora replied, almost mockingly. I nodded. And if the house sells for less than the remaining loan, the difference will be charged to Nora, the new owner. Is that all right? Yep. Totally fine. Then, there's no issue from my side. I made Nora write a pledge. Take that. Watching her and Ken laugh, I calmly analyzed them. Poor things, they're done for. A little thought would reveal that a spacious house close to the station couldn't possibly be bought for a $1,200 monthly loan. If I were Ken, I'd certainly ask to see the document with the loan amount, just to be safe. While Nora and Ken high-fived, Tom turned pale. Foreseeing the future but helpless to change it. I patted Tom's back consolingly. What can you do? One has to take responsibility for their words. After Ken left, I started packing in my room when Tom came in. What should I do? Caught between his daughter and wife, Tom was at a loss. Glancing at him briefly, then focusing back on my packing, I replied. Just do what you think is best. I added, but personally, I can't live with Nora anymore. She's too selfish. I truly thought Tom should do what he liked. If he stayed and wanted to support Nora, she and Ken could probably pay the house loan. Not just them, but with Tom's income, all three could manage. If Tom thought that was best, then so be it. I opposed the idea, but once the ownership changed to Nora, it wasn't my concern anymore. Over a few months, I found a new house and changed the house ownership to Nora. Meanwhile, Tom came to my room again. Tom sat down formally in front of me, bowed his head, and offered an envelope full of cash. This is for your consulting fee. I'd like to formally request your services. A request? For what? Tom replied, for advice on the actions I should take. His expression was just like when he first came to me for business advice. He wanted to truly protect his daughter and needed guidance on what to do. I'm embarrassed to admit, but when it comes to family matters, I can't seem to make a calm decision. So, I need an outsider's perspective on the right course of action. His formal tone indicated his serious commitment. Are you sure you want to ask me? I might say some harsh things that are hard for a father to hear. Yes, I understand. But if things continue as they are, it's not just bad for her, it's harmful. He showed his resolve. I straightened up, feeling his determination. I accept your request. I suggested that Tom should also move out of the house, and that no matter how much Nora pleaded, he should never give her money. I told him about the incident with John and Nora 3 years ago. Nora did something that terrible? Tom was shocked and speechless. Yes. If things go on like this, Nora will become the worst kind of person. The responsibility lies not only with her but with us too, for raising her this way. That's true. This is a turning point for Nora and us. If we really care about her, we must be prepared to let her hit rock bottom. Tom took my words to heart and nodded. We decided to move out together and buy an apartment, putting it under both our names and sharing the mortgage. It was a 2-bedroom apartment a bit far from the station. Cheaper and with a shorter loan period than our previous house. Perfect for the two of us. But within a month, Nora and Ken burst in, furious. What's this about a $12,000 monthly mortgage payment? Nora yelled as she entered. Ken, confrontational, demanded, explain yourselves. Well, that's the amount we've always paid. Don't lie. Nora slammed the table. Where would you get that kind of money? Whether you believe it or not, the bill says so. We need you to pay it as a matter of fact. What? Nora turned to Tom, pointing at me. Dad! Break up with this woman right now! Nora demanded. Tom, without a word, solemnly shook his head. What? Nora was taken aback, trembling in disbelief. I'll have nowhere to live if this continues. She tried to sway Tom with her tears. What should I do, Dad? Clearly, she was convinced that Tom would give in and provide financial support. However, Tom firmly refused. The house is in your name now, Nora. It's your responsibility for not checking the payment amount. This was probably the first time Tom had been so distant with Nora. He had always tried to fulfill his role as a father. You're an adult now. Everything you do, good or bad, comes back to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my dad. Right, Dad? Nora turned to Tom with a forced smile, which quickly faltered as she saw his unyielding expression. Wait, what's wrong, Dad? Her face turned to despair. Ken, further cornering Nora, added, I knew something was off. Such a nice house for only $1,200 a month. We've been tricked. Glaring at Nora, he accused. Are you some kind of marriage scammer? No, that's not. Shocked by Ken's words, Nora's tears flowed. I'm calling off the engagement. Ken stormed out, leaving Nora alone. This is all your fault. Nora's anger irrationally turned towards me. What are you going to do about this? She lunged at me, but Tom intervened. Dad! I won't be demanding anymore, just… As she clung to his arm, Tom pushed her hand away. This is the house you took from your mother. You figure it out. Ugh, this woman. Nora must have been deeply frustrated. She wiped her tears with her sleeve, viewing me as the enemy until the end. You're not my mother, she declared and left our apartment. Unable to pay the $120,000 mortgage, Nora was forced to sell the house as agreed. But setting a high price, the sale dragged on, increasing the mortgage debt. Panicked, Nora lowered the price to what the real estate agent suggested and finally sold the house. The house sold for less than the remaining mortgage, so I hired a lawyer to ensure Nora paid according to the pledge she had signed. I had recorded our conversation on my phone when she agreed to pay, so the claim against Nora went smoothly. Whether she could pay easily was another matter. After breaking up with Ken, Nora moved into a rental apartment and started paying me monthly. But it was clear that maintaining her lifestyle while making these payments was going to be a stretch. Soon enough, she seemed to be struggling financially. One day, we had guests at our home. We were entertaining a young couple who had come to announce their engagement, chatting in the living room with Tom. Suddenly, the doorbell rang loudly, and Nora barged in uninvited. Despite being told we had guests, she stormed into the living room, ignoring the couple and pleading desperately with Tom. Dad, Yvonne, I'm at my limit. I couldn't even make my utility payments yesterday. At 27, she sat on the living room floor, crying loudly. Tom and I exchanged glances, and the young couple looked bewildered. All my utilities will be cut off. Nora sobbed like a child. The young man from the couple spoke up. If it's just a missed payment, they won't cut off your utilities right away. Recognizing the voice, Nora stopped crying and slowly looked up. John? Long time no see, Nora, John said with a gentle smile. Nora, perhaps feeling nostalgic or reassured, started crying again. We managed to get her seated in a chair. Why is John here? She asked through tears. I began explaining. Well, 3 years ago, I was in the same cafe where you and John were breaking up. What? It was just a coincidence. It's thanks to Yvonne that I am where I am today. Nora sat there, mouth agape. She was not fully understanding. But I continued. Remember how you used to ask where I got all my money from? Actually, I've been working as a freelance consultant and doing affiliate marketing. I told her I started before marrying Tom and that my income was quite substantial. More than your father. What? Nora gasped in shock, biting her lower lip in frustration. Why didn't you tell me? You must have found it funny, watching me make a fool of myself. Yes, I did. I replied honestly. I didn't actually find Nora's situation funny, but I guess that's what she thought of herself now. Remember? Back then, I didn't have much money, right? Yvonne told me about some work-from-home side jobs. Luckily, his company allowed side jobs. I had suggested affiliate marketing through blogging and web writing. Affiliate marketing takes time to generate income, but once it starts, it can lead to significant earnings. As for web writing, many people write emails and are exposed to web content regularly. John, who also read novels in his spare time while caregiving, seemed a good fit for trying his hand at scenario writing. 3 years since I started, and thanks to persisting, my income has increased a lot. John said, smiling. Enough to get married. Oh, the tables have turned since then. I mused. It's strange how things work out. The one who used to complain about not being treated to dinner was now struggling with utility bills, while the one who asked for more time to pay was now well off. All in just 3 years. Tomorrow's troubles are today's worries. A phrase that Nora might be feeling the most right now. Now, I could take you out to dinner any time, buy you clothes, bags, anything you want. John said gently. Nora clutched his hand tightly. Then, John, let's start over, be together again. Suddenly, John's expression turned cold. He brushed off Nora's hand. That's why it won't work with you. What? Nora looked shocked. John looked down on her with disgust. I have money now, but I'm still taking care of my parents. Can you help? Are you willing to change my parents' diapers? What? No, why should I do that? See, John said softly, placing his hand on the back of his fiancée seated next to him. She said she'd help me with the caregiving. John smiled at his fiancée. I don't expect anyone I date to help with my parents' care, but it shows the character of both women. I commented. John nodded, agreeing. Yes, it felt like a difference in human quality to me. Nora banged the table in frustration. Enough! I didn't come here to be ridiculed. Her voice trembled, holding back tears. Right, we were talking about your utility bills, John said casually. He explained to Nora that missing a direct debit doesn't lead to immediate service termination. They'll send you a bill, and they always give notice before stopping services. They tell you when you need to pay by to avoid disconnection. Oh, really? Even after being helped, Nora couldn't muster a word of thanks. John smiled at her. I'm glad my embarrassing experience could be of help to Nora. Do your best to manage the payments on your own. He added, his words laced with sarcasm, which even Nora seemed to pick up on. John's and Tom's words made Nora cry even harder. Amidst everyone's stares, she lamented, Why? Why won't anyone help me? The answer was something she'd have to realize herself. No matter what anyone said, she wouldn't notice. John stopped his fiancée from offering a handkerchief to Nora. He was silently shaking his head. Nora would likely reject it. And it would only make his fiancé feel bad. We all watched Nora cry louder, feeling pity but remaining silent. Eventually, Nora moved from her luxurious apartment to a simpler two-bedroom apartment. She started living more modestly. Not buying branded items anymore. Probably because she couldn't afford them. She used the bags and clothes Tom had bought her in the past more carefully now. Despite her complaints about cockroaches and thin walls, she diligently paid back the money each month. Tom, feeling sorry for her, still chose not to offer any financial help, continuing to watch over her. I believe that being strict can also be a form of parental love. Not indulging in misplaced sympathy or pity can actually benefit Nora. John and his fiancée got married successfully. It was touching to see his parents, attending in wheelchairs, smiling happily. As for me, I'm still happily living with Tom. Continuing my work as a consultant. Accepting criticism and improving oneself is essential. This humble and flexible approach can expand both companies and individuals. I'm living by this belief every day, striving to continue in the same